Very good. Well, I'm delighted to make my third video of emails. And I've been getting great emails from all over. And we've been getting a great response to our masses on the World Wide Web. So I hope you'll get a laugh out of this. And it's always good to laugh. So thank you for tuning in. And thanks to Dave Beattie for making this possible. So this is one I got the other day. Conversation between God and the devil about the coronavirus outbreak. The devil is laughing and says to God, I triggered the coronavirus. See what's happened? I've closed all your churches. God, with a very pleasant smile, said back, yes, but I've opened up a church in every home, the domestic church. Marriage and love, the wife. You stopped loving me after we got married. The husband said, I had told you before marriage that I'd no interest in married women. Why two wives? An economist beautifully explained 2 reasons for having 2 wives. Monopoly should be broken. Competition improves the quality of service. If you have 1 wife, she fights with you. If you have 2 wives, she fights for you. The wonders of marriage. When you are in love, wonder happens. But once you get married, you wonder, what happened? The philosophy of marriage. At the beginning, every wife treats her husband like God. Later, somehow, don't know why, alphabets get reversed. One-line humor. Regular naps prevent old age, especially if you take them while driving. Having 1 child makes you a parent. Having 2 makes you a referee. Marriage is a relationship in which one person is always right and the other is the husband. I believe we should all pay our tax with a smile. I tried, but they insisted on cash. You can't buy love, but you pay heavily for it. Marriage is give and take. You better give it to her, or she'll take it anyway. My wife and I always compromise. I admit I'm wrong, and she invariably agrees with me. A successful marriage requires falling in love many times, always with the same person. It doesn't matter how often a married man changes his job. His boss remains the same at home. They call our language the mother tongue because the father seldom gets to speak. Why do couples hold hands during their wedding? It's a formality, just like 2 boxers shaking hands before the fight begins. There is only 1%. There is only 1 perfect child in the world, and every mother has it. And there's only 1 perfect wife in the world, and every neighbor has it. When the society laments the loss of an economy more than the loss of human life, it doesn't need a virus, it's already sick. Irish mammy teaching lessons on religion. You better pray that stain will come out of the carpet. Time travel. If you don't stand up straight, I'm going to wallop you into the middle of next week. Proof. Because I said so. That's proof enough. Logic. If you fall out of that branch and break your neck, you're not coming to the shops with me. Helpful hints for traveling. Make sure you wear clean underwear in case you have an accident. Irony. Go on, keep crying. I'll give you something to cry about. If you I'll put that smile on the other side of your face. Stamina. You're going to sit there until you've eaten every last mouthful. Reason. Because I said so. That's reason enough. Appreciation. If you're going to kill each other, go outside and do it. I've just finished cleaning the floor. Childhood meals. Eat it or you go without. This was true in my house. When life gets too hard to stand, kneel and pray. I just got pulled over by the cops. He said, I smell alcohol. I told him, that's because you're not respecting social distancing. A mask is better than a ventilator. Home is better than ICU. Prevention is better than cure. It's not curfew, it's care for you. Some people come into our lives and leave footprints on our hearts. Other people come into our lives and make us want to leave footprints on their faces. With Jennifer's wedding day getting closer, nothing could make the excited bride lose momentum, not even her parents' divorce. Jennifer's mom had found the perfect dress and would look like a beautiful mother of the bride on her daughter's big day. But just 1 week later, Jennifer discovered that her father's 25-year-old new wife had bought the exact same dress as her mother. She talked to the 25-year-old and told her, please do not wear this dress. But she said, no way. I look amazing in this dress and I'm wearing it. Jennifer broke the bad news to her mother, but the matron took it surprisingly well. Don't worry, darling. I'll just find a new dress. It's your special day and this won't get in the way. Just a few days later, they went shopping and found another beautiful dress. Jennifer asked her mom, when will you return the other dress? You don't really have another reason to wear it anytime soon. Of course I do, her mom replied. I'm going to wear it for the rehearsal dinner the night before your wedding. O'Toole worked in the lumber yard for 25 years, and all that time he'd been stealing the wood and selling it. At last his conscience began to bother him, and he went to confession to repent. Father, it's been 15 years since I last went to confession. I've been stealing wood from the lumber yard all this time. The priest told him, I understand, my son. Can you make a novena? O'Toole said, Father, if you have the plans, I have the wood. Mrs. Murphy was looking for the grave of her late husband. It has been a while since she was there. She went to the cemetery management office and said, I'm looking for my husband's grave. Yes, ma'am, said the director. What's his name? John Murphy, she answered. He looked through his large book for quite a time and finally said, sorry, there's no John Murphy in our cemetery, but there's a Mary Murphy. The woman brightened up and said, of course that's it. Everything was in my name. An Irish priest was driving down to New York and got stopped for speeding in Connecticut. The state trooper smelled alcohol on the priest's breath and then saw an empty wine bottle on the floor of the car. He said, sir, you've been drinking. Just water, said the priest. The trooper said, then why do I smell wine? The priest looked at the bottle and said, good Lord, he has done it again. A father wanted to read a magazine, but was being bothered by his little girl, Shelby. She wanted to know what the United States looked like. Finally, he tore a sheet out of his new magazine on which was printed the map of the United States. Tearing it into small pieces, he gave it to Shelby and said, go into the other room and see if you can put this back together. This will show you our whole country today. After a few minutes, Shelby returned and handed him the map, correctly fitted and taped together. The father was surprised and asked how she had finished so quickly. Oh, she said, on the other side of the paper is a picture of Jesus. When I got all of Jesus back where he belonged, then our country just came together. A note from a daughter to mom. A mother passing by her daughter's bedroom was astonished to see the bed was nicely made and everything was picked up. Then she saw an envelope propped up promptly on the center of the bed. It was addressed Mom. With the worst premonition, she opened the envelope and read the letter with trembling hands. Dear Mom, it is with great regret and sorrow that I'm writing to you. I had to elope with my new boyfriend because I wanted to avoid a scene with Dad and you. I've been finding real passion with John, and he is so nice, even with all his piercings, tattoos, beard, and his motorcycle clothes. But it's not only the passion, Mom. I'm pregnant, and John said that we would be very happy. He already owns a trailer in the woods and has a stack of firewood for the whole winter. He has wanted to have many more children with me, and that's now one of my dreams too. John taught me that marijuana doesn't really hurt anyone, and we'll be growing it for us and trading it with his friends for all the cocaine and ecstasy we want. In the meantime, we'll pray that science will find a cure for AIDS so John can get better. He sure deserves it. Don't worry, Mom. I'm 15 years old and I know how to take care of myself. Someday I'm sure we'll be back to visit so you can get to know your grandchildren. Your daughter, Judith. P.S. Mom, none of the above is true. I'm over at my neighbor's house. I just wanted to remind you that there are worse things in life than my report card that's in my desk center drawer. I love you. Call when it is safe to come home. Two buddies, Bob and Earl, were two of the biggest baseball fans in America. Their entire adult life, Bob and Earl discussed baseball history in the winter, and they pored over every box score during the season. They went to 60 games a year. They even agreed that whoever dies first would try to come back and tell the other if there was baseball in heaven. One summer night, Bob passed away in his sleep after watching the Yankees' victory earlier in the evening. He died happy. A few days later, his buddy Earl awoke to the sound of Bob's voice from beyond. Bob, is that you? Earl asked. Of course it's me, Bob replied. This is unbelievable, Earl exclaimed. So tell me, is there baseball in heaven? Well, I have some good news and some bad news for you. Which do you want to hear first? Well, tell me the good news first. Well, the good news is that yes, there is baseball in heaven, Earl. And that is so wonderful. So how could there possibly be any bad news? You're pitching tomorrow night. A Jewish man moves into a Catholic neighborhood. Every Friday, the Catholics go crazy because while they are eating fish, the Jew is outside barbecuing steak. So the Catholics work on the Jew to convert him. Finally, by threats and pleading, the Catholics succeed. They take the Jew to the priest, who sprinkles holy water on him and says, born a Jew, raised a Jew, now a Catholic, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Catholics are ecstatic. No more delicious but maddening smells every Friday evening. But the next Friday evening, the scent of barbecue wafts through the neighborhood. The Catholics all rush to the Jew's house to remind him of his new diet. They see him standing over the stove cooking steak. He is sprinkling holy water on the meat, saying, born a cow, raised a cow, now a fish. Serving. A farmer named Muldoon lived alone in the Irish countryside, except for a pet dog he loved dearly. The dog finally died, and Muldoon went to the priest, saying, Father, my dog is dead. Could you possibly say a mass for the poor creature? We can give him Christian burial. Father Paddy told the farmer, no, we can't have services for an animal in this church. But I'll tell you, there's a new denomination down the street. Who knows what they might do? They might be able to do it for you. So Muldoon says, I'll go right away. and I was going to make a big donation. Do you think 50,000 will be enough to give them for doing the funeral? Father Paddy replies quickly, you didn't tell me the dog was Catholic. A divine sign. A rabbi, a priest, gets into a car accident, and it's a bad one. Both cars are totally demolished, but amazingly, neither cleric is hurt. As they crawl out of the cars, the rabbi sees the priest's collar and says, so you're a priest? That's interesting. I'm a rabbi. Wow. Just look at our cars. There's nothing left, but fortunately, we are unhurt. This must be a sign from God that we should meet and be friends and live together in peace for the rest of our days. The priest replied, I agree with you completely. This must be a sign from God. The rabbi continued, and look at this. Here's another miracle. My car is completely demolished, but this bottle of Mogan David wine didn't break. Surely God wants us to drink this wine and celebrate our good fortune. Then he hands the bottle to the priest. The priest shakes his head in agreement, opens it, and takes a few big swigs from the bottle, then handed it back to the rabbi. The rabbi takes the bottle, immediately puts the cap on, and hands it back to the priest. The priest asks, aren't you going to have any? The rabbi replies, no, I think I'll wait for the police. An Irishman is in a wheelchair, enters a restaurant one afternoon and asks the waitress for a cup of coffee. The Irishman looked across the restaurant and asked, is that Jesus sitting over there? The waitress nodded yes. So the Irishman told her to give Jesus a cup of coffee on him. The next patron to come in was an Englishman with a hunchback. He shuffled over to a booth, painfully sat down, and asked the waitress for a cup of hot tea. He also glanced across the restaurant and asked, is that Jesus over there? The waitress nodded. So the Englishman said, to give Jesus a cup of hot tea, my treat. The third person to come into the restaurant was a redneck on crutches. He hobbled over to a booth, sat down and hollered, hi there, sweet thing. How about getting me a cold glass of Coke? He too looked across the restaurant and asked, is that God boy over there? The waitress nodded. So the redneck said to give Jesus a cold glass of Coke on his bill. As Jesus got up to leave, he passed by the Irishman, touched him and said, for your kindness you are healed. The Irishman felt the strength come back into his legs, got up and danced a jig out the door. And Jesus passed by the Englishman. He touched him and said, for your kindness you are healed. The Englishman felt his back straighten up, and he raised up his hands, praised the Lord, and did a series of backflips out the door. Then Jesus walked towards the redneck. The redneck jumped up and yelled, don't touch me, I'm on disability. A man and his wife walked into a dentist's office. The man said to the dentist, Doc, I'm in one heck of a hurry. I have two buddies sitting out in the car waiting for me. So forget about the anesthetic. I don't have time for the gums to get numb. Just pull the tooth and be done with it. We have a 10 a.m. appointment in the best golf course in town, and it's already 9:30. I don't have time to wait for the anesthetic to work. The dentist thought to himself, my goodness, this is surely a brave man, asking to have his tooth pulled without using anything to kill the pain. So the dentist asked him, which tooth is it, sir? The man turned to his wife and said, open your mouth, honey, and show him. Two boys were walking home from Sunday school after hearing a strong preaching on the devil. One said to the other, what do you think about all that Satan stuff? The other boy replied, well, you know how Santa Claus turned out. It's probably just your dad. In 1918, Philadelphia prematurely entered its quarantine from the Spanish flu to throw a parade in order to boost morale for the war effort. Some 200,000 people lined the streets of that late September day. Within 72 hours, every bed in Philadelphia's 31 hospitals was filled, and the city ended up with 4,500 people dying from the flu or its complications within a matter of days. What is that proverb? Those who cannot learn from the past are condemned to repeat it. One day, while at the racetrack playing the ponies and all but losing his shirt, Mitch noticed a priest who stepped out onto the track and blessed the forehead of one of the horses lining up for the fourth race. Lo and behold, the horse, a very long shot, won the race. Before the next race, as the horses began lining up, Mitch watched with interest the old priest stepping onto the track. Sure enough, as the fifth race, the horse came in and the priest gave a blessing, and Mitch made a beeline for the betting window and placed a small bet on the horse. Again, even though it was another long shot, the horse the priest had blessed won the race. Mitch collected his winnings and anxiously waited to see which horse the priest would bless in the sixth race. He blessed the horse again. Mitch bet big on it, and it won. Mitch was elated. As the races continued, the priest kept blessing the horses, and every time he ended up coming in first. By and by, Mitch was pulling in some serious money. By the last race, he knew his wildest dreams were going to come true. He made a quick dash to the ATM machine, withdrew all his savings, and waited for the priest's blessing that would tell him which horse to bet on. True to his pattern, the priest stepped onto the track for the last race and blessed the forehead of the old nag that was the longest shot of the day. Mitch also observed that the priest blessed the eyes, the ears, the hooves of the old nag. Mitch knew that he had a winner and bet every cent he owned on the old nag. He then watched dumbfounded as the old nag came in dead last. Mitch, in a state of shock, made his way down the track after the race to find where the priest was. Confronting the old priest, he demanded, "Father, what happened? All day you blessed horses, and they all won. Then at the last race, the horse you blessed lost by a Kentucky mile. Now, thanks to you, I've lost every cent of my savings, all of it." The priest nodded wisely and with sympathy. "Son," he said, "that's the problem with you Protestants. You can't tell the difference between a simple blessing and last rites." A rabbi and a priest were sitting together on a train, and the rabbi leans over and asks, "So how high can you advance in your organization?" The priest says, "Well, if I'm lucky, I guess I could become a bishop." "Well, could you get any higher than that?" asked the rabbi. "I suppose that if my works are seen in a very good light, that maybe I might become an archbishop." "Is there any way you can go any higher than that?" "Well, if all the saints should smile on me, I guess I could become a cardinal," said the priest. "Well, could you get any higher than a cardinal?" "Well, without really blessings, I maybe if I was really, really lucky, there's only one pope in the world, I could be pope." So the rabbi says, "And could you be anything higher than that? Is there any way that you could become the Messiah?" And the priest said, "No way." But the rabbi said, "One of our boys did." Once there was a really good cat who died and went to heaven. When he got to the pearly gate, St. Peter met him and told him that because he'd been such a good cat on earth, he could have anything he wanted. The cat had always wanted a big fluffy pillow like the one his master had on earth, so this was his request. A few days later, 4 really good mice died and went to heaven. Once again, St. Peter met them at the gate and told them they could have anything they wanted for being so good. So they had seen children roller skating on earth. So that was their request from St. Peter, roller skates. A few days later, Peter decided he better check on the cat to see how things were going. When he arrived at her pillow, he asked her, Is the pillow the right type? Are you comfortable? Do you need anything else? To which the cat replied, the pillow is wonderful, and those meals on wheels are terrific. When Forrest Gump died, he stood at the pearly gates. St. Peter said, welcome, Forrest, we heard a lot about you. Unfortunately, it's getting crowded up here and we have to give you a little exam before we can let you in. Okay, said Forrest, I hope it's not too hard. I've already been through a test. My mama used to say, life is like a final exam, it's hard. Yes, Forrest, I know, but this test is only 3 questions. Here they are. Which 2 days of the week begin with the letter T? How many seconds are in a year? And what is God's first name? Well, sir, said Forrest, the first one is easy. Which 2 days of the week begin with the letter T? Today and tomorrow. St. Peter looked surprised and said, well, that wasn't the answer I was looking for, but you have a point. I'll give you credit for that one. The next question, said Forrest, how many seconds are in a year? 12. 12, said St. Peter, surprised and confused. Yes, January 2nd, February 2nd, March 2nd. St. Peter interrupted him. I see what you mean. I'll have to give you credit for that one too. Now the last question, Forrest. What's God's first name? It's Andy. Andy, said St. Peter in shock. How did you come up with Andy? Well, I learned it in church. We used to sing about it. And Forrest broke into song and said, and he walks with me and he talks with me and he tells me I am his own. So St. Peter opened the door and said, Forrest, run, run, run. At the end of the age, when all the believers were standing in line, waiting to get into heaven, God appeared and said, I want all the men to form 2 lines. One line will be for the men who were the true heads of their household. The other will be for the men who were dominated by their wives. God continued, I want all the women to report to St. Peter. So the women left and the men formed 2 lines. The line of men who were dominated by their wives seemed unbelievably long. The line of men who were the true head of their household had only 1 man in it. God said to the first line, your men ought to be ashamed of yourselves. I appointed you to be heads of your households, and you were disobedient and have not fulfilled your purpose. All of you, out of here, and learn from this man who did what we wanted. So turning to this man on the line on his own said, how are you standing there? The man replied, my wife told me to. A policeman pulls over a car, walks up to the driver's window and asks the man if he knew why he pulled him over. No, the man replied. You failed to stop at the stop sign, the cop explained. But I did slow down, the guy argued. The cop shook his head. You're required to stop. That's why they're called stop signs. The man started to get belligerent. Stop, slow down. What's the difference? The cop pulled out his baton. I can show you. I'm going to start hitting you with my baton. You can tell me if you want me to stop or slow down. A rich millionaire decided to throw a massive party for his 50th birthday. So during the party, he grabs the microphone and he announces to his guests that down in the garden of his mansion, he has a swimming pool with two great white sharks in it. And I will give anything they desire of mine to the man who swims across the pool. So the party continues with no event in the pool, until suddenly there's a great splash, and all the guests of the party run to the pool to see what was happening. In the pool is a man, and he's swimming as hard as he can, and the fins come out of the water, and the jaws are snapping, and this guy just keeps on going, and the sharks are gaining on him, and this guy reaches the end, and he gets out of the pool, tired and soaking wet. The millionaire grabs the microphone and says, I am a man of my word. Anything of mine I will give you. My Ferraris, my house, absolutely anything. For you are the bravest man I've ever seen. So, sir, What will it be? The millionaire asks. So the man grabs the microphone and says, why don't we start with the name of the crazy man that pushed me into the pool? A little 3-year-old boy is sitting on the toilet. His mother thinks he has been in there far too long, so she goes in to see what's up. The little boy is sitting on the toilet reading a book, but about every 10 seconds, he puts the book down, grips onto the toilet seat with his left hand, and hits himself on the top of the head with his right hand. His mother said, Billy, are you all right? You've been in here a long time now. Billy says, I'm fine, Mommy, but I haven't pooped yet. Mother says, okay, you can stay here a few more minutes. But Billy, why are you hitting yourself on the head? Billy says, it works for catch-up, doesn't it, Mom? And walking can add minutes to your life. This enables you at 85 years old to spend an additional 5 months in the nursing home at $7,000 per month. My grandpa started walking 5 miles a day when he was 60. Now he's 97 years old and we don't know where he is. I like long walks, especially when taken by people who annoy me. Signs of aging. Everything hurts, and what doesn't hurt doesn't work. You feel like the night after when you haven't been anywhere. You get winded playing chess. Your children begin to look middle-aged. You know all the answers, but nobody asks you the questions. You look forward to a dull evening. You sit in a rocking chair and can't get it going. Your knees buckle, but your belts won't. You just can't stand people who are intolerant. You burn the midnight oil until 9 p.m. Your back goes out more than you do. Your pacemaker races the garage door when you see someone attractive. You have too much room in your house and not enough in your medicine closet. You stick your teeth into a steak and they stay there. Self-isolation quarantine diary. Day 1. I can do this. Go. Enough food and wine to last for a month. Day 2. Opening my 8th bottle of wine. I fear wine supplies will not last. Strawberries. Day 3. Some have 210 seeds. Some have 235 seeds. Who knew? Day 4, 8 p.m. Remove my day pajamas and put on my night pajamas. Day 5. Today I tried to make hand sanitizer. It came out as jello shots. Day 6. I get to take the garbage out. I'm so excited I can't decide what to wear. Day 7. Laughing way too much at my own jokes. Day 8. I put liquor bottles in every room. Tonight I'm getting all dressed up and going bar hopping. Day 9. I realize why dogs get so excited about something moving outside. Going for walks and car rides. I think I just barked at a squirrel. Day 10. If you keep a glass of wine in each hand, you can't accidentally touch your face. Day 11. Watch the birds fight over a worm. The Cardinals led the Blue Jays 3-1. And the final day. Anybody else feel like they have cooked dinner about 395 times this month? A country preacher decided to skip services one Sunday and head to the hills to do some bear hunting. As he rounded the corner on the perilous twist of the trail, he and a bear collided. Seeing him and his rifle tumbled to the ground on the side of the mountain. Before he knew it, his rifle went one way and he went the other, landing on the rock and breaking both legs. That was the good news. The bad news was the furious bear charging at him from a distance. And he couldn't move. Oh Lord, the preacher prayed, I'm so sorry for skipping church today. Come now and answer my prayer. Please give make this bear a Christian. And just instantly, the bear stopped and started praying. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts which you're about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. A young man named John received a parrot as a gift. The parrot had a bad attitude and an even worse vocabulary. Every word out of the bird's mouth was rude, obnoxious, and laced with profanity. John tried and tried to change the bird's attitude, but consistently saying only polite words, playing soft music, and anything else he could think of to clean up the bird's vocabulary. Finally, John was fed up, and he yelled at the parrot. The parrot yelled back. John shook the parrot, and the parrot got angrier and even ruder. John, in desperation, threw up his hands, grabbed the bird, and put it into the freezer. For a few minutes, the parrot squawked and kicked and screamed. Then suddenly, there was total quiet. Not a peep was heard for over a minute. Fearing that he had hurt the parrot, John quickly opened the door of the freezer. The parrot calmly stepped out into John's outstretched arms and said, I believe I may have offended you with my rude language and actions. I'm sincerely remorseful for my inappropriate transgressions, and I fully intend to do everything I can to correct my rude and unforgivable behavior. John was stunned at the change in the bird's attitude, and he was about to ask the parrot what had made such a dramatic change in the behavior, when the bird asked, May I ask, what did the turkey do? And 3 proofs that Jesus was Jewish. He went into his father's business. He lived at home until he was 33. He was sure his mother was a virgin, and his mother was sure he was God. 3 proofs that Jesus was Irish. He never got married. He was always telling stories. He loved green pastures. 3 proofs that Jesus was Puerto Rican. His first name was Jesus. He was bilingual. He was always being harassed by the authorities. 3 proofs that Jesus was an Italian. He talked with his hands. He had wine with every meal. He worked in the building trades. 3 proofs that Jesus was black. He called everyone brother. He liked gospel. He couldn't get a fair trial. 3 proofs that Jesus was a Californian. He never cut his hair. He walked around barefooted. He started a new religion. And the best of all, 3 proofs that Jesus was a woman. He had to feed a crowd at a moment's notice when there was no food. He kept trying to get the message across to a bunch of men who just didn't get it. And even when he was dead, he had to get up because there was more for him to do. A Spanish teacher was explaining to her class that in Spanish, unlike English, all nouns are designated as either masculine or feminine. House, for instance, is feminine. La casa. Pelis, pencil, however, is masculine. Pencil is masculine. Lapis. El lapis. A student asked, what gender is computer? Instead of giving the answer, the teacher split the class into 2 groups, male and female, and asked them to decide for themselves which computer, whether computer should be masculine or feminine noun. Each group was asked to give 4 reasons for their recommendations. The men's group decided that computer should definitely be of the feminine gender. La computadora, because no one but their creator understands their internal logic. The native language they use to communicate with other computers is incomprehensible to everyone else. Even the smallest mistakes are stored in long-term memory for possible later retrieval. And as soon as you make a commitment to one, you find yourself spending half your paycheck on accessories for it. The women's group, however, concluded that computers such should be masculine. El computador. because in order to do anything with them, you have to turn them on. They have a lot of data, but still can't think for themselves. They are supposed to help you solve problems, but half the time they are the problem. And as soon as you commit to one, you realize that if you had waited a little longer, you could have gotten a better model. Teenagers, tired of being harassed by your stupid parents? Act now, move out, get a job, and pay your own bills while you still know everything. An aged farmer and his wife were leaning against the edge of their pig pen when the old woman wishfully recalled that the next week would mark their golden wedding anniversary. "Let's have a party, Homer," she suggested. "Let's kill a pig." The farmer scratched his grizzly head. "Gee, Ethel, I don't see why the pig should take the blame for something that happened 50 years ago." A senior citizen was driving down the freeway. His car phone rang. When he answered it, he heard his wife's voice urgently warning him, "Herman, I just heard on the news that there's a car going the wrong way on Interstate 10. Please be careful." "It's not just one car," said Herman. "It's hundreds of them." A priest was walking down the street when he saw a little boy jumping up and down trying to reach a doorbell. So the priest walked over and pressed the button for the youngster. "And now what, my little man?" he asked. "Now," said the boy, "run." Dear Sir, I'm writing in response to your request for more information concerning Block 11 on the insurance forum, which asks for cause of injuries, wherein I put, "trying to do the job alone." You said you needed more information, so I trust the following will be sufficient. I'm a bricklayer by trade, and on the day of injuries, I was working alone laying brick around the top of a 4-story building when I realized that I had about 500 pounds of brick left over. Rather than carry the brick down by hand, I decided to put them into a barrel and lower them by a pulley, which was fastened to the top of the building. I secured the end of the rope at ground level and went up to the top of the building and loaded the brick into the barrel and swung the barrel out with the brick in it. I then went down and untied the rope, holding it securely to ensure the slow descent of the barrel. As you will note in Block 6 of the insurance form, I weigh 145 pounds. Due to my shock at being jerked off the ground so swiftly, I lost my presence of mind and forgot to let go of the rope. Between the second and third floors, I met the barrel coming down. This accounts for the bruises and lacerations on my upper body. Regaining my presence of mind again, I held tightly to the rope and proceeded rapidly up the side of the building, not stopping until my right hand was jammed in the pulley. This accounts for the broken thumb. Despite the pain, I retained my presence of mind and held tightly to the rope. At approximately the same time, however, the barrel of bricks hit the ground and the bottom fell out of the barrel. Avoided the weight of the bricks. The barrel now weighed about 50 pounds. I again referred to Block 6 and my weight of 145 pounds. As you would guess, I began a rapid descent. In the vicinity of the second floor, I met the barrel coming up. This explains the injuries to my legs and lower body. Slowly, only slightly, I continued my descent, landing on the pile of bricks. Fortunately, my back was only sprained, and the internal injuries were minimal. I am sorry to report, however, that at this point, I again lost my presence of mind and let go of the rope. And as you can imagine, the empty barrel crashed down on me. I trust this answers your concern. Please know I have finished trying to do the job alone. A 2,000 member church was filled to overflowing for Sunday Mass, when 2 men dressed in long black coats and black hats entered through the rear of the church. One of the men walked to the middle of the church, while the other stayed at the back of the church. They both then reached under their coats and withdrew automatic weapons. The one in the middle announced, "Everyone willing to take a bullet for Jesus, stay in your seat." Naturally, the pews emptied, followed by the choir loft. The deacons ran out of the door. After a few minutes, there was about 20 people left sitting in the church. The priest was holding steady at the pulpit. The men put their weapons away and said, "Father, all right now, the hypocrites are gone. You can begin Mass." People are like tea bags. You have to put them into hot water before you know how strong they are. Dusty Bibles lead to dirty lives. God so loved the world that he did not send a committee. How will you spend eternity? Smoking or non-smoking? Come work for the Lord. The work is hard, the hours are long, and the pay is low, but the retirement benefits are out of this world. Do not wait for the hearse to take you to church. Forbidden fruits creates many jams. A little boy pulls on the priest's hands to get his attention, then says, "I'm going to give you money when I grow up." The priest says, "Thank you very much, but why do you want to give me money?" The little boy said, "Well, my father says you're the poorest preacher of a priest my daddy has ever heard. And how do you make holy water? You boil the hell out of it." And a man suffered a serious heart attack while shopping in a store. The store clerk called 911 when they saw him collapse to the floor. The paramedics rushed the man to the nearest hospital where he had emergency open heart bypass surgery. He awakened from the surgery to find himself in the care of nuns at the Catholic hospital. A nun was seated next to his bed holding a clipboard loaded with several forms and a pen. She asked him how he was going to pay for his treatment. "Do you have health insurance?" she asked. He replied in a raspy voice, "No health insurance." "Do you have money in the bank?" "No money in the bank." "Do you have a relative who could help with the payments?" asked the irritated nun. He said, "I only have a spinster sister, and she's a nun." The nun became agitated and announced loudly, "Nuns are not spinsters, they are married to God." Then the patient said, "Perfect, send the bill to my brother-in-law." And an old country preacher had a teenage son, and it was getting close to the time the boy should give some thought to choosing a profession. Like many young men his age, the boy didn't really know what he wanted to do, and he didn't seem too concerned about it. One day while the boy was away in school, his father decided to try an experiment. He went into the boy's room and placed in his study 4 objects: a Bible, a silver dollar, a bottle of whiskey, and the Playboy magazine. "I'll just hide behind the door," the old preacher said to himself. "When he comes home from school today, I'll see which object he picks up. If it's the Bible, he's going to be a preacher like me, and what a blessing that would be. If he picks up the silver dollar, he's going to be a businessman, and that would be okay too. But if he picks up the bottle, he's going to be a no-good drunk. And what a shame that would be. And worst of all, if he picks up that magazine, he's going to be a skirt-chasing womanizer." The old man waited anxiously, and soon heard his son's footprints as he entered the house and headed for his room. The boy tossed his books on the bed, and as he turned to leave the room, he spotted the objects on the table. With curiosity in his eyes, he walked over to inspect them. Finally, he picks up the Bible and placed it under his arms. He picks up the silver dollar and drops it in his pocket. He uncorked the bottle and took a big drink out of the whiskey. And mercy me, he went to the centerfold of the Playboy magazine. "Mercy me," the old preacher whispered. "He's going to be a no-good congressman." Amen.